Shalom. Today has been such a special morning, and Dahlia has been such a light. And yet these last 6 weeks have been so difficult. And it makes us cherish these smachot, these celebrations even more. So thank you to the Sukkarts for bringing so much joy and happiness today on this Shabbat. But the truth is that today marks exactly 6 weeks since October 7th, the brutal Hamas attacks and massacre in Israel. 6 weeks that the 240 or more hostages have been held in captivity as their families are desperately marking the days that have passed and possibly even the birth of a pregnant hostage. It's hard to comprehend that little Emily Hand marked her 9th birthday yesterday in captivity, that we don't know where she is, we don't know where the terrorists are holding her. As with all the other abducted hostages, will not let the Red Cross see them to get signs of life, check on their health, and see how they're treated. And that news continues to come, identifying the body of Vivian Singer, a 74-year-old Canadian Israeli who was murdered, a leading peace activist, a woman who devoted her life to taking Palestinians living in Gaza across the border into Israel every single day for life-saving medical treatments in Israeli hospitals. Earlier this week, we did something. We traveled to Washington, D.C., carrying signs that read, "Cleveland stands with Israel, Cleveland is stronger than hate," joining together in the March for Israel, 300,000 strong, standing together, and I mean standing together for hours. If you were there, you'll know, joined by more than 250,000 watching on the live stream. That's more than 550,000 gathered together. We marched to raise our voices, to be counted, to be heard, to bring the hostages home, to combat rising anti-Semitism, to show America and our elected leaders the importance of their continued support for Israel, and for all Americans and the world to join us, to show Israel that they are not alone, that we are standing with them. Tuesday's march was powerful, it was historic, showing the solidarity of our people and those who stand alongside of us. There were young and old, parents and grandparents bringing their children and grandchildren. It was safe, it was peaceful, incredibly well organized thanks to our Jewish Federation of Cleveland, a moment of intense pride to sing Hatikva with 300,000 voices together, 300,000 hearts beating as one. And I'll say 550,000 because I know those watching online were singing together with us. For those of you who are there, you will know that in order to get to the National Mall, the site where the rally was taking place, between the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. and the Capitol building, where we stood to raise our voice for Israel, we had to march. We had to walk about 2 miles. We walked from the Kennedy Center, passing the Lincoln Memorial, the World War II Memorial, passing history, recalling American moments of courage, of bravery, of sacrifice, and of the highest values that we hold dear, and the times that we needed to stand up to injustice and evil in our history. And there, as we marched those 2 miles, there was a sea of Israeli flags, Hebrew chants every single moment, guiding us on our mission to rally for Israel in our nation's capital. And now we come back here to Cleveland inspired and determined. And even if you were not able to make the trip, we know that you were there with us, because the march wasn't just one day. It didn't end on Tuesday at 3 p.m. or later, as everything went a little longer. We all must march on for Israel, and we're doing that every single day. That's why I spoke last Sunday at Church of the Covenant in University Circle about the need to support Israel, and that's what Israel needs from each and every one of us, because we are still marching to bring the hostages home. We're still marching to end anti-Semitism and hate, because this week a congregant shared with me that her middle school daughter found a swastika in the girls' bathroom of her school right here in South Euclid. When 2 Ohio State students were assaulted on campus simply for being openly Jewish last week, when our cemetery Chesed Shel Emet was desecrated, we stand together against hate, and we pray for Israel, right here in our sanctuary and in our homes. In a few moments, we're going to recite the Amidah, our core devotional prayer known as Hatfilah, the ultimate prayer that ends with a prayer for peace, sim shalom, for Israel and for our world. The prayer doesn't begin, though, with words, not with whispered silent devotion. Prayers recited in a hushed tone, with the cantor's melodies lifting us up and inspiring our prayers to go higher, raising our voices aloud, or even with us joining all together in words of prayer in Hebrew. The Amidah begins by marching, literally moving our feet, reminding us that we cannot be paralyzed or frozen at this moment, that we're not powerless, we're not stuck. We must still march together. And that's why we begin the Amidah prayer, taking 3 steps back, to gather our reserves and remind us of our purpose, to focus our prayers, our voices, and then we march forward together, all of us, one foot after another. We may not be carrying signs here in our sanctuary, chanting, "Bring them home," or shouting, "Am Yisrael Chai," but today and every day when we pray, when we act, when we speak, we march on and we march for Israel. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, titled his commentary of this parsha in his book, Lessons in Leadership, "The Price of Silence." This is not a time to be silent, for there's a price to be paid for silence. This is a time to raise our prayers, our hopes, our voice, and to stand up for Israel. As our bat mitzvah Dalia taught us, we must use our voice. We must speak up and speak out, talk to our neighbors and our coworkers, our friends and our colleagues. Israel needs everyone's support. Reach out again to all of our elected representatives and leaders. Thank them for their previous support of Israel. Ask them what they are doing to bring home the hostages, including the more than 20 American citizens who are hostages, and how they can support Israel even more. We must make others uncomfortable and have uncomfortable conversations to share the truth of how we're feeling, what we need from them to support Israel, to support us, and to bring the hostages home. Our Torah portion, Toldot, tells the stories of our patriarchs and our matriarchs, our ancestors, whom we recall in our prayer, the Amidah, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. We invoke the memories and the qualities, the embodiment, the examples that each of our ancestors stood for. Our prayer book states that when we pray about Rebekah, there's a great commentary on page 185, it says this: we are praying that we embody the trait of Rebekah, who took the lead, who knew what needed to be done. She was a mover of history. Let's be Rivka. Let's move history. Let's stand up to make sure we do what needs to be done. And finally, we can be like Yitzchak. Yitzchak dug wells, not always viewed as a hero in the Bible, not having the incredible faith of Abraham, standing up for the injustice and the innocent in Sodom and Gomorrah like Abraham, or a wrestler like Jacob. Isaac was simply known for digging wells. Rabbi David Wolpe writes this week, "The essential tool that I needed to meet the challenge we face at this moment is the character trait exemplified by Isaac. When he redug his father's wells, he renewed the achievement of the past and added to it, digging deeper and deeper. And that can only be done with courage, stamina, and determination. Struggling more, he had to do it over and over again, digging deeper and deeper. And that's what we must do now. Rabbi Wolpe adds, Isaac's digging uncovered the buried secret of one's spirit, the secret that our world is not finished, that we have a hand in making our world better. No matter how tired we may be, how much this world seems on fire and filled with hatred and evil, we must take a proverbial shovel in our hands, redigging the wells of our ancestors in our own way. And that way, we can produce living water, make our parched and needy world better. So how will we dig in? How will we dig deep? How will we march forward? How will we use our voice? How will we tell our people's story? How will we pray for Israel? That is the question that we're asked today and every day right now at this point of 6 weeks. So if you march for Israel on Tuesday, I'm going to ask you to please stand up. If you watched the stream and joined us virtually for Israel, please stand up. And if you're praying for Israel, like all of us are, please stand up. We're going to end by singing Hatikva. Ever since October 7th, every single day in this synagogue at every service, we end our service with Hatikva. Please join as we pledge our love, our heart, our feet, and our voice for Israel today and every day. If you don't know the words, it's on page 448 on the bottom of the page. Am Yisrael Chai. Shabbat Shalom.